Hey everybody, it's Matt from endsickness.org. Today I'm going to be talking about a really important topic. It's ignoring your counterproductive impulses while you're healing. This is something that I had to learn the hard way myself. And if I had really known what's in this video, it might have taken me several years less to get better. So if you don't know about me, my name's Matt. I run endsickness.org. I used to be really sick. I had autoimmune disease, fibromyalgia, Crohn's, celiac, all these things. And, I ended up losing 80 plus pounds. I was sick for, 14 plus years. Gradually started to make progress only after 7 of those years. It was really rough. I couldn't go to the bathroom on my own for 2 years plus. I had to use enemas. I had lost 80 plus pounds. I had rashes all over my body. You could see the before and after picture on my website. So, I had layers and layers of infection, and I did not realize. I had Epstein-Barr when I was younger. I had, a few different types of parasites. I realized a protozoan parasite called Dientamoeba fragilis. I had pinworms at one point. I had other types of parasites that came out of me. I had 6-7 different bacterial infections they found on the stool analysis. The list goes on and on, So I was really in a tough situation. I got really sick when I was 20 years old, and it was not easy to get better. It took me about 7 years before I even made any progress, really. But once I started to make progress, I realized that I had these counterproductive impulses, that like these desires to do things that would make me worse again, right? And I've even seen it in my daughter, who had health issues when I got custody of her when she was 18 months. She had a lot of health issues. She had mast cell-like symptoms, and eventually it was far more of a obvious mast cell case than I ever was. She had reactions to the point she was having seizures. She was reactive to nearly everything. We had to move 2-3 different places. I have experience with these things, and then getting out of these situations using various things. And they're not always supplements, It's identifying the hidden irritants, and that's what I'll talk about in this video. But more than anything, I'm going to talk about how you avoid those counterproductive impulses when you start to make some progress. So I want to talk about first foods, okay? When you start to feel better, as I did when I started drinking the colostrum, I started to have food cravings, right? As I started to feel better and better, I started to want to eat the foods that I had not eaten in a while. I wanted to go out to restaurants. I wanted to do normal things. And, that led me to start craving these foods, right? And next thing you know, I was eating things that I probably shouldn't eat as often as I was eating them. And this is, I had been extremely sick. Once I gained the weight back, all of a sudden I'm eating ice cream bars, I'm eating sandwiches, I'm eating this, I'm eating anything. I'm eating myself to sleep. It doesn't even matter, because I'm so much healthier than I was. I'm thinking in my head that, that I could do these things I used to not be able to do in the past when I was real sick. So I had lots of food limitations. I can only eat at 1.6 different foods over the course of a few years. Once I drank the colostrum, my food sensitivities kind of pretty much, for the most part, became more delayed and less noticeable. I started eating almost everything in sight, So you got to make sure that when you start making progress with your stomach, that you don't go back to the foods that were causing you issues in your stomach, because people who do this, every single client that I've ever worked with does this. Everybody does it. When you make progress with foods from being on a good diet, you start to think about stepping outside of it. And the more progress you make, the more you start to think about stepping outside of it, until one day you have this epiphany that, that this is your illness trying to bring you back to the infection or whatever organisms are inside you are trying to manipulate your behavior to make them more dominant, and that's why I realized in the end. I'll go over that more. But, really, you have to realize your food choices are influenced by the organisms that are in your stomach. And if you are sick, you're going to be tempted to be influenced for things that you should not have. And also, more importantly though, when you're killing this stuff off, you're going to have really strong cravings to want to eat foods that feed them so they could continue to exist, specifically if you have parasitic issues. Parasites have been shown to manipulate host behavior. So Foods, you gotta be very careful. You gotta stay with the diet. The foods that don't react with you, that you know you're fine with, that you keep in a rotation diet of a few day, 3-day rotation ideally. And you gotta stick with it as you heal. Your healing process will be much better. You don't wanna just keep making mistakes a couple times a week because you wanna step outside the boundaries because you're so bored with the food that's working, right? So I see this with every single person. Number 3, activities. If there are things you weren't able to do before that you now feel you're able to do, you have to go in moderation. You have to add them back slowly. You can't just jump back into things. You can't push yourself over that limit. If you put yourself through too much stress, your immune system, your mast cells, your body will flare up and you will go backwards, and then you'll be depressed about being sick again, right? And having to go through this all, and then all the worst thoughts come back in your head. So you really have to avoid these setbacks in the food and the activities, overdoing stuff, because then it's that self-beat up process where, oh, I shouldn't have done this, and now I feel worse, and and I don't have control over my actions type of thing, and it's not a good place to be at all. So when you add activities back in, like exercise, like going out late, like, anything, do it back in moderation, all right? And if there's any activities to add back in that are stressful, they're going to put stress in the body, like an exercise or something, you really should do some deep breathing or some meditation to calm yourself down, really. Do something to counteract the stress you're putting on your body, some other activity like yoga or something. But ease your way into everything very slowly, like baby step it, please. Supplements. A lot of time people are getting better with less, right? Once they avoid, when I work with people, what I've realized, they realize is that less is more, right? If you are doing less things and each of these things are serving a purpose, you're going to be much better off than if you're doing too many things and half of them are counterproductive, right? So what I mean by that is you can't have too many different foods. You have to have the foods that work for you, and then gradually add the foods back in. You want to keep your food on a rotation, 2 to 3 day rotation. This is the same thing with supplements, you don't want to take any supplement every single day, you want to rotate them. The most you want to take most supplements is going to be like every other day, sometimes 2 days on, a day off, but you don't want to keep taking the same thing every single day. That is an issue that people have constantly with supplements. In addition, with supplements, you don't want to take synthetic ones, right? You don't want to go for the ones that give you the energy boost first. You take these B vitamins or whatever, all these things, try to speed up the healing process, and you end up setting yourself back. What people don't realize about this healing from chronic illness is that it's an inflammatory condition. It is caused by the mast cells. In most cases, mast cells are responsible for most of the inflammatory chemicals. If you aggravate the mast cells, you will increase inflammation, your symptoms will increase. So everything you do has to calm down the immune system, calm down the immune system, calm down the immune system. If you don't, it will make you worse. Most people end up going to various supplements to try to increase the speed of their healing, try to kill an infection, trying to, get this multivitamin, this B vitamin, whatever, to get the energy. But really, at the end of the day, the thing that's going to give you the energy is avoiding the irritants and the triggers and allowing your body to get into a state of good sleep and rest and repair, and only using supplements that are naturally derived, plant-based derived in most cases, or fermentation derived, and supplements that calm down the immune system, that don't hurt the stomach, that don't tax the liver. You have to check all those boxes, otherwise the supplements are going to be an issue. What I see with people over and over again is like, you start making some progress, and then you have this brilliant idea as to, oh, maybe I should add this to what I'm doing, and that will make it work better or quicker, and then that usually makes things work worse, and then you end up setting yourself back, and then you go into the mental beat myself up thing, and the inflammation ensues again. So you can't rush your healing. You have to make sure you're allowing your body to heal itself. Anything else, this artificial stimulation and trying to improve healing, is not going to be the way to go. Yes, I believe in some supplements, don't get me wrong. Yes, I do. But you have to look at every supplement as a risk as much as it as a potential help. Everything you're doing can at some point be turned on your body. So you have to make sure you're not trying to do too many things at once, and you're not overdoing anything, and you're allowing your body to be able to clearly tell you what doesn't agree with it and what does. Because then you can make the decisions as to what to continue to do and what to stop doing. People keep trying to get through this process too quickly, they make stupid decisions based on fear, emotion, and set themselves back in the healing process. So you cannot rush your healing. You have to stay sharp with it. And remember, it is about identifying symptoms when they get worse, identifying what caused them to get worse, and removing or making adjustments in respect to that. So the mast cell connection, you cannot forget about the mast cells. Mast cells are the key to healing. You have to keep them calm and reduce the number of them. If you don't, you will have more inflammatory presence in the body, which will cause you more symptoms. Mast cells, to reduce the population and to go ahead and keep yourself not overactive, you just have to remove all the triggers. My daughter was so reactive to everything you couldn't even believe, right? Just from removing all the food triggers, the environmental triggers, it changed her whole being. I mean, she's almost a normal kid now from being probably the most reactive case I've ever seen. And it really is from doing nothing, right? I started to give her the colostrum a little bit later in the game, but before that, she had recovered a lot just from paying close attention to what made her cough, what made her stuffy, when she would have certain reactions that were clear, when her eczema would kick into gear, when her face would get red, when she would start itching, all these things, and just put together, I figured out what was causing these things that I had just done, and then I would find substitutes. And that's what you have to do in this healing process. It's not about adding more. It's about identifying and increasing awareness. That is the most important thing, okay? So, avoiding the trauma trap. You don't want to get caught in the trauma trap, okay? That is I'm not dealing with my emotions during this healing process. I expect this all to be done on a physical basis, not a mental, emotional basis, right? You have to address these inner emotions that led to you getting sick, or you will end up running into walls in your healing process. You'll end up defaulting to behaviors that are not good for you, foods, people, things, to try to make you not feel that emotion you're feeling, and it will set you back in your healing. You have to address the trauma head on. You got to realize this process of being sick was extremely traumatic, and you have to do something about it. Stress reduction techniques are very important. Like I said, yoga, meditation, deep breathing, but also just converting this trauma into a blessing. You have to tell yourself that this is a blessing. You're proud of who you are now. You're going to be better than you ever were. Things are going to be better because you went through this process, and you're going to find your true self, and you're going to be very happy to meet them, right? And that's the most important thing you have to remember when you're going through this, is you have to turn this into a beneficial process. It can't be a bad luck, or you can't be the victim. Otherwise, you will not get better, And you have to take all this within your control. It's in your control. You can do it. You just have to remember the mast cell connection, look for the irritants, identify, remove, substitute, all that. So if you have any questions, comments, let me know. Go to my website, endsickness.org, for more info. Again, this is not meant to be any health advice. Always seek advice from a licensed practitioner. It's just for information and educational purposes only. Thanks for watching.